Milltek Sport Civic Cup is just about to go. It's Paul O'Neill, it's Andy McEwen. Was going to speak to some of the drivers. They're all starting their engines up, and they're going to be driving either side of us in a second to get on track for qualifying. Matt Luff's looking like he wants to get on with it, and also Rob Butler's on good form, isn't he, at the right-hand side of you? There's more chance of him hitting me than you, because they seem to like you, mate, don't they?
Yeah, I don't know why. I really can't think why. Yeah, great bunch this, aren't they? Do you know what? This is the first time that I've been able to come down here like immediately before a session, and you'd think they'd all be in the zone and all concentrating and taking it super serious. They are not. The banter is on the next level with this. Like, it's great to see.
Yeah, they are, and Rob Butler just getting away there. But what are you looking to see here? Who's going to do the business here? Because Thackeray has been right up the front. He's just gone past us in that 29, and Will Redford as well. A lot of good-looking cars on the grid, but some good people, and I think that there's going to be an interesting one, this, for me, mate.
I think so, yeah. You mentioned Will Redford, actually. New team for him now as well. He's moved from Kinetic over to Pro Alloys. That's going to be interesting. Another blindingly bright car on the grid, which is always nice to see. Got Jordan Brennan back as well. Last time we saw him, he was the wrong side of a barrier at Alton Park. They've got the car fixed, the Liquid Molly car back out on track. There's some competitive drivers out there and a really close championship fight. Matt and Ali, I think 9 points between them coming into this one with 6 races to go. It's all to play for.
Yeah, definitely. And the production guys have gone past us as well. I like the production guys. They're just such lovely people, aren't they? Not saying that the Cup guys are, but they're just nice people, aren't they? And they get on with it.
Yeah, and this battle between Alfie and Louis has been really fascinating to watch. And it's funny because they've been inseparable on the track. There's about 5 feet height difference between the two of them, but on track and on the points, nothing to choose between them. You know, trading wins as the year's gone on. And yeah, that's going to be another fascinating battle to watch today.
Right, fascinating to see you crack on, mate. You do a runner because Andy, you have got to crack on. So yeah, Milltek Sport Civic Cup is definitely the way to go. And how are you getting on, Captain? Are you going to be on pole today?
I'm not. No, I'm just a marshal. Oh, of course.
I would like to do your job. And by the way, I just want to personally thank you guys because you do such a cracking job, and especially with what's been going on in the other meetings and stuff. So you keep it up, fella, and have a good day, yeah?
Yeah, and you look after yourselves. Thank you very much.
Will do, top man. Right, I think we're going to go to an ad break, and then we're going to go to qualifying, and we're going to see what goes on.
For voice and data solutions at speeds that are simply out of this world, choose Maximum Networks.
Welcome along everyone to Donington Park and qualifying for the Milltek Sport Civic Cup then. Have jogged down to the commentary box, having joined Paul O'Neill down there in the assembly area, ready for a 15-minute qualifying session, and the lap times will start to come in fairly shortly, I'm sure. We're already about 5 minutes or so into the qualifying session, and Andy McEwen will be joined in good time by Paul O'Neill to talk you through all of the action, and plenty of it we will see. It's the shorter, just over 3.1 kilometre Donington Park National Circuit that we are using here on this Bank Holiday Monday for the pair of Civic Cup races here this weekend. Still overcast, still a bit chilly, although the wind has at least died down ever so slightly since the TCR qualifying session a bit earlier on in the morning. Almost ideal track conditions for fast lap times this, and already we're starting to get those lap times coming in with Alistair Camp onto the provisional pole. Rob Butler, our most recent race winner, second fastest ahead of Morgan Bailey and Will Redford, with Matt Love in 5th position. Right, I ran here. Paul O'Neill doesn't have a bead of sweat on his forehead, so I think Mr. Lyons has given you another taxi ride down here, Paul. It's a busy old day this, isn't it? But well and truly revved up for this Civic Cup qualifying session.
I will switch my microphone on, sorry about that. Yeah, I always forget to do that. But yeah, it's a busy old day here, and you just never know what kind of things this track might throw at you. It's a fantastic circuit, Donington Park, but yeah, you turn up and the circuit can be in such a different state from every time you come here. You never know what kind of track limits will get thrown at you. But yeah, these guys were ready to rock and roll, weren't they, when we were talking to them down on the assembly grid. So yeah, and Louis Hansel there is one of those people who'll be trying to crack on and get the pole for production class.
And interestingly, towing along here with Alfie Jenkins, who is his production class championship rival. Once the drop scores are all calculated, Alfie Jenkins is 16 points clear of Louis, and at the moment it is Jenkins who's faster than Louis in this qualifying session. 12th position right now for Alfie in this production car. That's a really impressive effort around a circuit with a very high average speed, but Louis Hansel there in his wheel track trying to use the slipstream to his advantage. How much of an effect do you reckon the tow will have in these cars around here? Because it is a fast circuit, it's not a particularly aerodynamic car. Worth trying to pair it with someone in this qualifying session? I
would say definitely worth pairing up if you can, but you just never know what kind of mistakes someone in front of you may make. But these cars are not aerodynamically shaped, as you can see Alfie there just indicating left to say, I want to get out the way now, mate, and let you crack on. But yeah, that was quite an interesting one where he was pulling him round. But yeah, to answer your question, these cars are not the best aerodynamically, so they do create a big hole in the air for the car behind to follow through. The thing is with Donington, mate, people don't realise it's actually one of the biggest power circuits we have. Oh, big, that was Cripps, was that?
Matthew Cripps, yeah. The old hairpin going grass tracking. A fast part of a very fast circuit, that isn't the old hairpin?
Yeah, just a bit. It's only down one gear in any car I've driven, and yeah, just get on the throttle and drive it through. But it is a power circuit, and you do see any cars that have a little issue with power, doesn't matter what class you're in, if you have a power issue at Donington, you are in a bit of trouble. So yeah, good to see all these Honda-powered cars going round nicely at the minute.
And as we expected, time's very tight. The top 5 at the moment, covered by less than 0.2 of a second. Jack Harding is outside of that top 5 at the moment, but good to have Jack back on the grid here this weekend. Jack missed the Castle Combe round, but the Mazda MX-5 convert in his first ever season of front-wheel drive racing has been massively impressive, actually, when he's raced with us. Jack Harding debuted at Brands Hatch. He missed the season opener at Cadwell Park, got himself straight into the top 5 at Brands Hatch, likewise again at Alton Park. Very, very quick driver is Jack, and a circuit, this one, Paul, that he's always excelled at in MX-5s, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee that he'll be able to do the same thing in front-wheel drive. What he's doing here is very difficult to do.
It is, yeah. You know, there's some tracks that suit people's front-wheel drive technical ability, and there's some places that can be a bit of a problem. And this is, front-wheel drive cars around here is all about momentum, like you've mentioned, but it's also about getting the curbs, getting the car across the curbs and not striking them in an awkward angle. In rear-wheel drive, the cars just act so differently how you actually strike the curbs. So yeah, you've got to be a bit of a specialist to be quick round here. But one thing that Jack Harding is a very good driver.
He is indeed. He's pulling around Paul McHugh is what I was trying to say in his car there. 12th fastest at the moment, Paul McHugh. There's Morgan Bailey. Morgan Bailey, 4th in the championship, having a strong season. In fact, on the drop scores, he moves up to 3rd place in the championship. It's been a bit of a standout season this for Morgan Bailey. He's 3rd fastest at the moment in the qualifying session as well. So Morgan continuing his good form. Spoke to him briefly in the assembly area earlier on. He was revved up and raring to go, and looks very neat and tidy there through the old hairpin.
Very good, that was very impressive. And yeah, that car, I remember it last time I watched it at Donington Park. I don't know if it was last year, but it looked very, very special, and it does look set up very well. I know himself and his dad do a great job at getting that car looking as pristine as it possibly can, and also from the damper side of things, the spring side, they're definitely on it.
Looks immaculate as well, doesn't it? It doesn't have a scratch on that car, which, given the fact Morgan isn't normally backwards in coming forwards, is quite a miracle, really. It shows the hard work and preparation that goes in to getting these cars ready. Interestingly, Bale's on that lap. I wonder if he's backing off to try and find a drafting partner, almost, because he was about the only driver on his own out there on track, and he may well bail for the pit lane, just tweak the tyre pressures, and then try and go back out with somebody else. But Bailey stays in 3rd, ahead of Will Redford, who has shifted over now to the Pro Alloys grid team even now. So 3 of those Pro Alloys cars on the grid. His is the yellow and red one with the blue roof, and at the moment Will Redford running really well in 4th position as well. The man who's struggling a bit by his usually high standards is another ex-Mazda MX-5 frontrunner, Matt Love. Championship contender again this year, Matt Love. 2nd in the points, only 6th place in qualifying, but we saw this from him a bit at Coombe, didn't we, last time? Matt Love qualifying at the moment, not necessarily his strength.
No, not at all, but just check you up on that. It does look like he's going pretty well on this lap. He'll be coming through the chicane in a minute, but he's not green in the 2nd sector, but he is in the 1st one. But yeah, there he is. He's coming across the line now with that yellow flashed fronted car. And what has he got? Has he gone up? No, he's still. He had a green sector at the end, but he improved, but not enough. It's only 2/10 off, isn't he? And he's 6th. Wow, close.
Yeah, exactly. At 2/10, I mean, that ordinarily you'd think is not a huge chunk of time, but in this field, that is an absolute age. He did improve slightly there. I think it's actually looks like Rob Butler who's towing around, so he's got a quick driver to be following, has Matt Love, but he'll be a bit disappointed if he's only 6th on the grid, especially given the fact that Alistair Camp, the championship leader, is at the moment on pole position. Paul McHugh here coming down towards the end of the exhibition straight. Meanwhile, in the production ranks, Louis Hounsell has now gone onto the class pole position, and actually Alfie Jenkins dropping down into 3rd position, because we've got the 495 car, which is Mark Hughes, Kinetic Motorsport driver, who's actually splitting the 2 championship contenders. But again, Paul, even in production, the top 3 covered by a little over 1/10 of a second.
Oh, it's super close, isn't it, that top 3? I know they're usually close, but that is very, very close, isn't it? And yeah, they're really cracking on and trying to get the job done. Paul McHugh, though, he's 3.1 off, isn't he? He's looking for a good lap in the next 3 minutes. Oh, is that Love coming through there? That was proper Mary.
Louis Hounsell hopping and skipping over the curbs as well, but let's see if this group can improve. Rob Butler comes across the line, stays where he was. Matt Luff likewise behind him stays where he was, and Louis Hounsell also did not improve on his class pole position. There's the championship leader, Alistair Camp, the number 1 car heading up the hill towards Schwantz Curve, and Alistair having a typical Alistair Camp season, really. 4 race victories, more than anybody else. In fact, the only other driver... Oh, that is Matthew Cripps again, who got it all wrong coming down through the Craner curves. He's been off down at the old hairpin once already, and this time he has dislodged the front bumper. Looks like he's had some teeth taken out on the front of that car, and he is going to surely have to bail for the pit lane. That is not a nice place to lose control, but a very easy place to lose control in a front-wheel drive car, because you come through that left-hand element of the Craner curves. If you lift off the throttle at the wrong point there, Paul, the back end will overtake the front in a heartbeat. Yeah, if you're unloaded and you're hard on the throttle and that rear starts to get unloaded, you're in a bit of trouble. And the only thing you can do is, if you're running that road, is come out the throttle, and that makes it worse as the weight just goes all the way to the front and then swaps you around. But Alistair Camp is looking pretty feisty as he turns into Redgate, and that car has got no understeer at all. Doesn't even use all the track. It looks planted. Does, doesn't it? Looks really well balanced, that car, and he is still by 1/10 of a second on provisional pole. I started to say that the only other driver who has more than one win this year is Morgan Bailey, interestingly, who had a race win at Cadwell Park and a race win at Brands Hatch. But Alistair Camp with 4 race victories, he's rarely off the podium, but interestingly has, well, he did get 2 wins at Brands Hatch actually. He's the only driver to have taken more than a win at the same event so far. Looking to try to do the same sort of thing here at Donington. Right, there are a couple of the Pro Alloys cars. Will Claudio there, who's the guest driver this weekend for the 2nd time, I think, this season, in the 70 car, behind regular driver Owen Hillman. So these 2 working together, and interestingly, Will Redford nowhere to be seen, so they may have an extra car on the grid now, but Will choosing to go things alone, and at the moment, he is the best placed of those 3 cars. He is 4th right now, with Claudio in 10th and Owen Hillman in 12th position, and they're closing in rapidly there on Alistair Camp, who I think was backing off slightly on that lap. And in fact, Owen Hillman looks like he's bailing for the pit lane. I think that was just dust being kicked up. I don't think it was smoke. He ran a bit wide over the curb and decided to head for the pit lane. So, sorry, Will Claudia that was, excuse me. Owen Hillman there, number 70, continuing on his way as we're already into the dying seconds of the qualifying session. They're not very long, these sessions, and it seems like, Paul, all of the real action happened in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, it did look that way, didn't it? I think Harding maybe chipping away. He's fast. It's his fastest time in the first sector, so he's going to be coming down to the chicane pretty soon, and I think he could get up a couple of places here if he plays his cards right. Doesn't look like he was just chipping away, and unless he's in that traffic, I think that'll be a problem.
Yeah, he's there, isn't he? The 3rd car in line, so actually should be okay. I don't think he'll catch these 2. They are 2 production cars, I reckon. Alfie Jenkins, the first one, and this might just be delaying him. He might be okay. Fires it off the chicane, gets a bit of a tow from Alfie. Can Jack Harding improve then upon 7th place at the line? He comes across the timing line and stays in 7th position, sees the checkered flag as well. Alfie Jenkins, by the way, did get the production class pole position back, and actually by nearly a full second in the end, 9/10 clear of Louis Hounslow. He's got 3 of the Cup class cars between himself and his nearest production rival. So Jenkins 13th overall for Alfie. That is an astounding effort, that, for a production spec Civic to be up there against these fully race prepared cars. Owen Hillman's been off down at the Robert chicane there, finds his way back onto the road, and some of the drivers indeed heading for the pit lane, including Alistair Camp, who looks as though he's going to get the pole position then here in the Milltek Sports Civic Cup for this first 2 races here at Donington Park. The Civic Cup race is just the 15 minutes in length, the same length as the qualifying sessions, and Alistair Camp looking to try and continue his winning ways. He's had at least 1 race win at each of the last 3 events this year, and looking to try and make that 4 on the bounce here at Donington Park. So, cars then making their way back around to the pit lane, where the pole sitters, hopefully for both classes, will catch up with Paul O'Neill momentarily. But an interesting grid there. Alistair Camp on pole, and Matt Luff never did improve upon 6th place. So Matt Luff, number 72, the grey and fluorescent yellow car, which arriving here at Donington Park was only 9 points behind Camp in the championship, for the championship lead. That's a bit of a disappointment there for Matt, who doesn't do any testing before these events. Alistair's been here a couple of times in the week practicing and getting some testing laps in around Donington. Matt actually reckons that he does better when he doesn't come and test, and very relaxed young man is Matt. Ex-Ginetta junior racer, then moved into Mazda MX-5s for a season or so, and now in his 2nd full season, I think, in the Civic Cup, but only 6th fastest for him. I was about to say perhaps would be hoping or wishing that he'd been here doing a bit of testing, but actually he's only a 1/4 of a second off pole position, and yet he's on the outside of the 3rd row. It's an exceptionally tight field. In fact, Camp on pole by a 10th, but then the next 4 are covered by 3/4 of a 10th, so that's 0.075 seconds between Rob Butler 2nd, Morgan Bailey 3rd, Will Redford 4th, Dan Thackeray in 5th position, and Matt Luff then in 6th, as I said, a 1/4 of a second or so off pole. So, confirmation then of that qualifying result. Camp on pole position, Butler will start alongside him. Row number 2 then for Morgan Bailey and Will Redford, getting off to a strong start with his new team. Dan Thackeray and championship contender Matt Luff will start on the 3rd row. In fact, Thackeray also a championship contender. Jack Harding 7th on his return ahead of Harvey Caton, with Ross Darlington and Will Claudio rounding out the top 10 on the grid. Then it's Matthew Cripps, despite those two high-speed offs down at the old hairpin, ahead of Owen Hillman, 11th and 12th for those two. Then Alfie Jenkins in 13th place, the production pole sitter, just ahead of Paul McHugh. But then Louis Hounsell actually improved by a couple of places himself there to 15th by the end. So Hounsell still second of the production cars, but does at least jump up into 15th place overall. So he's only a couple of places behind Alfie. Remember, you score points within your class, not based on your overall finishing position. So important that he stuck with Alfie there. Then it's Jeff Alden, also on the 8th row with Louis Hounsell. Then Jordan Brennan and Mark Hughes were next, just ahead of Simon Welch, who rounds out the 19 runners. So qualifying done and dusted then for the Civic Cup. Their first race kicks off at 22:03 this afternoon, so they've got a little bit of time to prepare themselves for that in what is a hectic day here of racing at Donington Park with the TCR UK and Milltek Sport Civic Cup Championships providing the wheel-to-wheel racing action around the Donington National Circuit. And, the championship standings actually not changing there because we don't give a point for pole position in Civic Cup, but it's 25 points for a win, 1 point for fastest lap in the race. So as it stands, it is still the 9-point advantage for Cam over Luff, but we know from past experience that if you give Alistair pole position, he's got every chance of going on and claiming the race victory. So that is the qualifying session done with, and I think we can now head down to the Parc Fermé area where Alistair Camp is back on pole position again, and he's about to have a chat with his good friend, Paul O'Neill.
Thanks, Andy. Well, that was nice, wasn't it, mate? Got the job done early doors, 2 laps. You were just telling me about a front axle problem or a bit of understeer. Is that something you're worried about for the race?
It's a bit concerning when you know you've just done everything you can do possible to the car. So obviously we want the quick times in quality, but we also use it. That's why we stay out there to see what the car feels like, so we can get like feedback for the race and that. So don't know what we're going to do, but I'm sure Johnny will work his magic like normal, and the car will hopefully point in the right direction for us.
Easy to get the lap sorted?
Yeah, and the lap 2 is, yeah, it was comfortable, and I felt like I was going to go quicker, but then after that, like the front end just wouldn't turn in as what I wanted it to do, what it was doing in the previous laps. But obviously, if you don't go quicker, you don't get noticed in it. So it's like you're trying to go quicker and the delta's saying like 0.2, 0.1, and you're just getting frustrated. So then you drive even harder and then you go worse. So I was happy. I was obviously always happy to be on pole. So
what are you thinking about when I've watched on track? There is like full-on grass cutting, all sorts. The track looks proper dirty. That's a concern. That if you're out front, it's not. But if you're having to make your way through traffic, it ain't going to be easy.
No, and there's a lot of ruts here as well. So on the inside of the curves where a lot of people try and take to get that extra bit of speed, it's not ideal around here because as soon as you go over that rut, it just feels like you're ripping the front wheel off. So yeah, some people choose that route, but just try to get the drive off the bend and overtake them down into the bend. That's the way I look at it. So
anyone you want to dedicate this to?
I better give the wife a bit of a mention, haven't we, to say it's her birthday. So happy 59th birthday, no, 32nd birthday, babe. So yeah, hope we'll turn it into a win.
Well, what I'll do is I'll do something for her too.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right, on your way, idiot. We've had enough of them cup pros. Let's go on to the nice people. Alf, well done, mate. That isn't just pole position, mate. It's like 68,000 seconds quicker than anyone else.
Yeah, it was a great qualifying session, to be fair. Obviously, it's always difficult going straight into qualifying with no free practice in the morning. And I've not really tested here in the Civic either, only in the Saxos last year. So yeah, it was really difficult finding the limit of the car and the limit of the track all in 15 minutes, say. But yeah, I managed to get a good lap in as well, and draft was playing a big part around the long straights as well. So yeah, I'm just chuffed with that, really.
I was going to ask you about that actually, because you were drafting with your championship compadre there. So what was that all about? And it does make a bit of a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, it makes a huge difference, to be fair. A bit of draft down the straights, but yeah, you could just feel it suck you in to the back of them, really. So yeah, it plays a big part in getting a good lap in.
What about the fact that you're that fast that you've ended up in front of some of the Cup guys who are in quicker cars? Is that something you're not bothered about? Was it something you wanted to do? Is it going to be a problem?
Well, you never know if it's going to be a problem until you're out there, really. But hopefully they don't get in the way too much and don't cause us too much hassle whilst we're trying to battle. But they have a lot of straight line speed compared to us. But we catch them in the corners, and yeah, it's quite interesting with a Cup class to be battling with them is quite fun. But yes, we'll see how it goes.
Top man, we'll have yourself a nice race one, and hopefully we'll catch you a bit later on, fella.
Cheers, mate.
Top man. Excellent. Right, Andrew, back to you, captain.
Thank you very much, Paul. Yep, qualifying done for the Civic Cup. They'll next be out for their first race a bit later on, but plenty of racing to go here. We're done with qualifying now for Civic Cup and TCR UK. We're into racing next with TCR UK drivers heading out onto the circuit at about 1:30. We'll have all the build-up for that very important 12th round of the championship from 1:15 here this afternoon, and then heading pretty much straight in to the 11th round of the Milltek Sports Civic Cup, with the build-up starting at just a fraction before 2:25 then at 4:10 we've got our reverse grid race for TCR UK, the build-up for that race, with the race itself due to get underway at 4:30, and then likewise at 5:50 we'll begin our Civic Cup coverage for the final time of the day, with the reverse grid race rounding out our racing action. So, we will see you a little bit later on for our first Civic Cup race, with Alistair Camp on the pole position and Alfie Jenkins taking another production class pole. Will they be the race winners though? You'll have to join us later to find out.